That boy life is dangerous. And his life is and he's just not dangerous with the they said he was doing, but he's in danger. He know too much.
The turmoil and the stuff that I put her through in my journey on becoming successful, because I had no understanding of what I was doing her, how I was.
If the defense in the Diddy case gets its way, Diddy could be a free man next month.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening.
That boy's life is dangerous, not because of what they said he was doing, but because of what he knows. And lately, it feels like the past is chasing him. After 27 long years of marriage, the unthinkable has happened. Shante Brodus, the woman behind Snoop Dogg's empire, his manager, his backbone, his quiet power, has walked away. What makes this even more unsettling is the timing. Because just as Snoop's name is being pulled back into that haunting 1996 Las Vegas case involving Tupac Shakur, Shante is cutting every tie that binds her to him. It's not just coincidence, it feels like preparation. For years, Shante wasn't just the woman beside Snoop Dogg, she was the architect behind his reinvention. When the world saw Snoop as the cool, laid-back rapper who transitioned from gangster rap to global icon, Shante was the one handling the chaos behind the curtain. She ran the contracts, the brand deals, and the crisis management. She became his official manager in 2021, taking full control over the business side of the Dogg empire.
Well, she just a strong black woman off the tippy. You know what I'm saying? Like, she stepped up as my wife and handled that. And there's been many times where I've been at my lowest, and she's always been the strongest to get me back up to like, get back out there. You gotta get back out there and do what you do. Don't worry about what's happening over here. I'm gonna handle that.
From his liquor line to cannabis ventures, from television shows to endorsements, she turned the name Snoop Dogg into a billion-dollar business. But now, insiders say the same woman who built the kingdom is quietly dismantling her role in it. Friends close to her call this more than a divorce, it's an escape plan, a clean break before the storm. While Snoop remains the public face of calm, those close to him describe a growing tension in his circle, a quiet panic that something bigger might be coming.
And good thing he didn't, because even though we was friends, but if pays you, I got a bullet into my skull. And one of the best friends I ever had in life is Pac.
Everything changed when Suge Knight, still serving time behind bars, made a chilling statement during an episode of his new podcast, Collect Call. From inside prison walls, Suge hinted that Snoop might have more to explain about that night in Las Vegas, the night Tupac Shakur was ambushed. He didn't name names, he didn't reveal details. But in a single cryptic sentence, Suge Knight cracked open a wound hip-hop has tried to heal for nearly 3 decades. Almost overnight, online threads lit up with speculation. People started connecting dots, old relationships, label politics, and broken friendships that defined the death row era. And in the middle of it all stood Snoop Dogg, the same man who once performed beside Tupac, smiling before publicly distancing himself from the East Coast-West Coast war. Now here's where the timeline gets interesting. Shante reportedly began reaching out to divorce lawyers around the same week Suge's podcast episode went viral. Sources claim that by September, she was already in full legal mode, meeting with financial advisors, adjusting management documents, and quietly removing her name from certain contracts. It's almost as if she could see the storm forming long before the rest of us did.
Snoop Dogg saying he owns Death Row is no different than me saying Tupac was alive because I had the unreleased Tupac music. It ain't no different, bro.
Snoop Dogg has always been the master of reinvention. From Murder Was the Case to Martha Stewart, he's managed to shift from street legend to mainstream icon. But every transformation leaves traces. And for those who've been following his career since the 1990s, the reemergence of old names like Suge Knight feels too precise to be random. During his rise with Death Row, the relationship between Snoop and Tupac was complicated. Former Outlaws member Napoleon recently reignited long-standing rumors that tension between the two rappers hit a boiling point before the Vegas shooting. According to him, when Snoop publicly praised artists from Bad Boy Records, the very crew Pac and Suge were feuding with, it was seen as a betrayal inside Death Row. That single move reportedly fractured trust between Snoop and the rest of the label. Now, with Suge's words echoing from prison, that story is back in circulation. People are starting to wonder whether Snoop's exit from Death Row back in the day and his later revival of the label are more connected than anyone realized. Because when he bought the Death Row catalog in 2022, he may have reopened not just a brand, but a box of legal and personal ghosts that were never truly buried. Through all of this, Shantae Brodus has remained silent. Not a statement, not a public post, nothing. But that silence is powerful, because those who know her describe her as strategic, methodical. They say she's not reacting emotionally, she's calculating every move. And based on her background, that makes sense. For decades, she managed more than her husband's brand. She managed his image. She controlled press access, filtered partnerships, and negotiated every high-profile deal. She was the stabilizer. When rumors of infidelity hit in 2019, when lawsuits surfaced in 2013, when public scrutiny threatened his reputation, she was the one who held the narrative together. Now, she's walking away from that role completely. Sources say she's moved out of their main Los Angeles home and taking control of her own financial accounts. Her name, which used to appear on Boss Lady Entertainment contracts and Broaddus family brand documents, is slowly disappearing. PR insiders say she's even begun working with a crisis communications firm to manage her public image independently of Snoop's. The message is clear: Shantae Brodus is not going down with anyone else's ship.
In the wake of Diddy's legal downfall, everyone in the upper echelon of hip-hop is watching their step. The entertainment industry has shifted. What used to be rumor is now evidence. What used to be loyalty is now liability. And women who were once expected to stand silently beside powerful men are learning from history. Insiders close to Shantae say she's learned that lesson well. She's already working with forensic accountants, quietly reviewing years of transactions tied to Snoop's companies and Death Row's revival. She's transferring archives, contracts, and digital data to her private legal counsel. Essentially, she's protecting the receipts. Because if investigators ever decide to follow the money trail, Shantae's knowledge could either save her or expose everything. There's also talk of a memoir in the works titled "Paid the Cost to Be the Boss Lady." The title alone feels like a statement, a declaration that she's reclaiming her story. People close to her suggest the book might not just be about love and entrepreneurship, but survival in an industry that rewards silence and punishes truth. If that's true, it could shift public perception entirely. Meanwhile, Snoop's demeanor has changed. Those who've worked with him for years say the energy around him feels tense. The easygoing humor, the effortless charm, gone, replaced by an unease that's hard to ignore. His team, once family-driven and tight-knit, now feels like a corporate frontline, focused on control and image management. Even on social media, fans have noticed the shift. Fewer personal posts, fewer family moments, the laid-back dogfather has gone quiet. And when a man like Snoop, known for keeping it real, starts pulling back, people notice. Publicly, he still projects confidence, but privately, multiple insiders describe an atmosphere of crisis. Meetings have become longer, security tighter, and the inner circle smaller. The message coming from his team is simple: no mistakes, no leaks, no noise. Snoop Dogg's legacy is one of the most remarkable in hip-hop history. He survived the chaos of Death Row, reinvented himself as a family man, became a TV personality, a businessman, and even a children's show narrator. His story has always been about transformation, but now that story might be facing its toughest chapter.
If even part of what Suge Knight hinted at has merit, and if federal investigators truly revisit the 1996 Las Vegas files, Snoop's name could find itself back in dangerous territory. The revival of Death Row was supposed to be his redemption, his way of reclaiming the past and building something new. Instead, it might be what reopens every door he worked to close. And for Shantae, who knows every financial detail, every deal, every transfer, this isn't just about emotion. It's about self-preservation. If Snoop's empire is threatened, her silence and what she chooses to reveal or protect could decide the outcome. The parallels are impossible to ignore. Diddy's empire collapsed in months. Suge Knight's power vanished behind bars. And now, Snoop Dogg, once the unshakable face of hip-hop's evolution, is surrounded by the same shadows that swallowed his peers. However, Snoop Dogg's marriage didn't just collapse, it imploded, under the weight of a video so shocking, it threatens to pull one of hip-hop's most beloved icons into the darkest scandal the culture has ever seen. The footage, allegedly leaked by his wife and longtime business partner Shantae Bros, doesn't just expose infidelity, it ties Snoop directly to Sean D. Kami, the former music mogul now serving more than 4 years in a federal prison for transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes. In a world where Diddy's name has become synonymous with coercion, manipulation, and recorded humiliation, this connection is nothing short of catastrophic. And for Snoop, the fallout could be career-ending. She stepped up as my wife and handled that. And it's been many times where I've been at my lowest. And she's always been the strongest to get me back up. Like, get back out there, you gotta get back out there and do what you do. Don't worry about what's happening over here, I'm gonna handle that. We've learned that the clip first surfaced privately among industry insiders late last month, just weeks after Diddy's sentencing. According to sources close to Shantae, the decision to leak it wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate, a message. After nearly 3 decades of marriage, the woman who helped build the Snoop Dogg empire appears to have chosen public humiliation as her final act of control. The reason? Insiders claim it's simple: betrayal. Not just marital betrayal, but a professional and spiritual one rooted in the very empire she helped him build. It's important to understand the backdrop. For years, Diddy's infamous freak-off gatherings were whispered about in Hollywood circles, lavish parties where power, money, and private acts mixed behind closed doors.
Prosecutors described them as elaborate performances, fueled by substances, secrecy, and fear. Witnesses during his trial spoke about cameras everywhere, tapes no one was supposed to see, and a pattern of exploitation disguised as entertainment. When the federal court convicted him under the Mann Act in mid-2025, many believed that chapter of hip-hop access had finally closed. But now, with this video, that past may be reopening, and Snoop might be one of its unexpected participants.
Responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive drug use.
Diddy said, "You don't do a freak-off. I'm going to release one of the freak-offs videos that you are profiled in and humiliate." Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. We can't ignore the timing. Diddy's downfall left a vacuum in the industry. Dozens of artists have been quietly distancing themselves from his legacy, removing him from streaming credits, archives. Yet Snoop's name is suddenly being whispered in the same breath. The video allegedly shows the rapper in a compromising encounter that sources claim took place at one of Diddy's Los Angeles estates in 2023, months before the raids on his Miami and LA homes. Whether the footage proves illegal activity is unclear, but its existence alone links Snoop to a man federal prosecutors called a predator in a designer suit. And for Shantae Bros, that connection may have been the final insult.
Known that I've talked for a while, a lot of people are buzzing that Diddy's former BFFs are real quiet.
And they have been.
And people were wondering why and who's the next to fall. And then Jay-Z comes out, and then LeBron James says, I'm stepping away for excused personal reasons. And people are going, oh, what is going on?
Publicly, Shantae has always been portrayed as the quiet backbone of Snoop's world. She was his teenage sweetheart from Long Beach Polytechnic, the girl who stood beside him before fame, the woman he married in June 1997 at the Ritz-Carlton and Marina del Rey. Over the years, she managed his deals, handled his brand partnerships, and even became his official manager in 2021, overseeing ventures across music, gaming, and spirits. When he joked earlier this year that he turned down a $100 million offer from OnlyFans because, as he said, I got a black wife, it was presented as a symbol of loyalty. Now, that loyalty seems shattered. Interviewer, your wife's been by you for your whole high school sweetheart. Interviewer, she never leave home without her. Snoop Dogg, yeah, that's right. Interviewer, but what has she kind of taken you on this journey? Snoop Dogg, I think my wife has been my best friend for a couple of reasons. One is that she always understood who I was and who I needed to become.
Career ending.
She stepped up as my wife and handled that. And there's been many times where I've been at my lowest, and she's always been the strongest to get me back up to get back out there. You gotta get back out there and do what you do. Don't worry about what's happening over here. I'm gonna handle that.
Behind the scenes, we're told Shantae had already been growing suspicious. The couple's relationship had survived earlier cheating rumors, from Selena Powell's trolling claims in 2019 to a 1998 paternity scandal. But the whispers linking Snoop to Diddy hit differently. Diddy's arrest in September 2024 had dragged countless celebrities into the spotlight, with investigators combing through footage and guest lists from his private events. When Diddy's properties were raided in March 2024, agents reportedly seized digital archives spanning years. Some insiders now believe that Snoop's image, or at least his presence, appears somewhere in that material. Shantae, according to a source close to her camp, knew what that meant for their family, for the brand, for everything they built. This story, Explosive, isn't just the betrayal, it's the scale of the fallout. Snoop Dogg has spent the last decade rebranding himself as America's favorite uncle, a mentor, TV personality, family man, even a children's cartoon producer. He's a coach on national television, a figure of lighthearted nostalgia.
Your wife's been by you for your whole
She's your
career.
high school
Your high school sweetheart. She
Never leave home without it.
Yeah, that's right. But how has she kind of taken you on this journey? Tell us about her.
I think my wife has been my best friend for a couple of reasons. One is that she always understood who I was and who I needed to become.
But now, his image is colliding with allegations tied to one of the darkest criminal scandals in entertainment history. Fans are already split. Some are calling the leak a setup. Others say it's the truth finally catching up to him. Meanwhile, Snoop's team has gone silent. No public statement, no denial, just digital cleanup. Posts featuring Shantae have quietly disappeared from his social channels, replaced with promotional content for his upcoming projects. Well, she's just a strong black woman off the tippy. You know what I'm saying? We've also learned that the couple's inner circle has fractured. Shantae, described by those who know her as calculating and fiercely protective of her children, is reportedly preparing legal action of her own. Documents are said to be in draft form, outlining both divorce proceedings and intellectual property concerns tied to their joint companies. Remember, she's not just his wife. She's the registered manager of several of his business holdings. In effect, she controls the empire's operational core. That means her next move could determine whether Snoop Dogg remains a global brand or becomes another fallen icon buried under scandal. Snoop's panic, according to people who've spoken with him, has been palpable. The man who once bragged that nothing could rattle his cool is reportedly on edge, calling lawyers and publicists around the clock. Those close to the family say he's convinced that Diddy's downfall could take him with it, especially if prosecutors believe he participated in any of those infamous freak-off sessions.
The irony is brutal. Snoop built his second act on discipline, on staying clean. on rejecting temptation, famously declining offers that could have made him hundreds of millions because, as he said, my wife wouldn't have it. Now, that same wife has flipped the script. Shantae didn't just leak a video, she opened a door. And what's behind it could be far worse than anyone imagined. Because if Snoop was truly part of that world, what else was he hiding? The video was just the first domino. Now the real questions are coming to light, and they're terrifying. Because Diddy's parties weren't just wild, they were allegedly criminal, filled with substances, coercion, and recordings meant to control. If Snoop was ever present, we have to ask, what did he see? What did he do? And what did Shantae really know all along? Shantae Broaddus isn't just walking away from a marriage. She's walking away from an era. Her silence, her sudden disappearance from public life, and her legal movements are not emotional reactions. They're strategic defenses. She's not running from love, she's running from fallout. It's a reminder of something the industry has always known, but rarely says out loud. Loyalty has limits, especially when survival is at stake. Shantae was there when Snoop was at his lowest. She was there when fame nearly destroyed him, when scandals threatened everything they built. But now, she's choosing herself, and that might be the smartest move she's ever made. As for Snoop, only time will tell what happens next. The past he thought he'd outgrown is back for answers. And if even one of Suge Knight's claims leads to real investigation, the entire foundation of Snoop's carefully built empire could start to crumble. Shantae Broaddus knows too much. She's seen too much. And maybe that's why she's choosing silence now, because silence speaks louder than any interview ever could. So what do you think? Is this the end of Snoop Dogg's legendary run, or just another chapter in his long story of survival? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story isn't done, not even close.